In this corner, Miles Morales, Spider-Man. In this corner, Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 2099. Both are from across the Spider-Verse. Both are available right now, but which one of these Spider-Men reigns supreme? Welcome to 5 Points of Articulation, where I review action figures and then articulate 5 points to help you decide if you want to add that figure to your collection. The 5 points I discuss are packaging, presentation, posability, playability, and price. I'm Jason, and if you enjoy my content, please like, share, subscribe, do all the YouTube rigmarole. Starting with the packaging, and we've already seen these blister cards in the Peter B. Parker video. Across the Spider-Verse logo up top, Miles lunging at the viewer, Miguel in pursuit, and Gwen coming between them. Legends logo glitching in the corner, and each figure looks like they're stepping out of a trans-dimensional portal. On the back, we see the other figures in the wave. In addition to Peter and these figures, there's also Spider-Punk, the Spot, Jessica Drew, and Gwen. Bold, confident render of Miles, and a similarly stanced Miguel. With the exception of the specific character, there's virtually no difference between the two, so for packaging, this round is a draw. Moving on to presentation, and Miles stands at 5 3/4 inches and Miguel stands at 7. Translating cartoon characters, especially ones with very dynamic art styles, is a challenge, but Hasbro's done a great job with Miles. I'm not saying Miguel's bad, there is a lot to like. His high-tech cape, for example. I love how it transitions from red to clear, and I do like the small bit of circuitry we see on the red parts of his costume. It isn't nearly as detailed as the $11 basic version. Like, if all I showed you was this close-up, would you think this is the one for little kids? Or this one? I will say the broad strokes of the costume are good. I appreciate that the logo was sculpted on and the paint is very crisp. Some really fine detailing in the calf, and of course I'm happy the figure's pinless, but when I look at Miles by comparison, there really isn't any contest. Zooming on in and just look at the amazing level of texture. I've seen the movie a couple of times and I honestly don't remember there being blue in the suit, and I will say it's a little inconsistent on the figure. Shouldn't it go all the way up the leg? But just like Miguel, the lines are nice and crisp. Flipping it around, I love the spider on the back, and I can't help but see a similarity to Miguel's, as if setting up some kind of commonality between them. The thing that I'm most impressed by are the spindly limbs. The arms and legs are so skinny, but they're completely functional. The eyes are bright and perfectly painted, as are the stripes running down the body. One of my favorite running gags in the movie is how nobody likes his costume, and I have to agree I don't really love this one either. I much prefer his look from the first Spider-Verse. But Hasbro has done a really good job of translating it into 3 dimensions. One major mark against them, however, is that they don't continue the paintwork underneath the ab crunch. It's even more egregious on the back, and they didn't even pretend to try with Miguel's. Arch him back even a little bit, and this is what you're left with. Also, if anybody was wondering, these are nice and soft, so no worry about them snapping off. And speaking of things coming off, the cape does not. That doesn't bother me, I'm just letting you know. Another interesting visual similarity is that they both have red soles to their boots. All I'm saying is that if we find out that there's an even deeper connection to them in Beyond the Spider-Verse, you heard it here first. I don't think Miguel the character is bad, I just don't think he's as good as Miles. And that's also pretty much how I feel about the figures. For presentation, this round goes to Miles. Moving on to posability, and both figures have the exact same number of joints, so it's all going to come down to range. From the top, and Miguel's head's in a dumbbell joint, whereas Miles is on a ball joint and a disc hinge. As such, Miles can look up a bit more, and thanks to his pencil neck, he can look down a bit more. He doesn't get any real tilt, unfortunately, so Miguel hasn't beaten that department, but both can look all the way around. Moving on down, and Miles can raise his arm up 90 degrees. Miguel just a little bit under. Both of them have bicep swivel, just mind the forearm fins banging against Miguel's cape. They've got pinless elbows, with Miles having a perfect bend, and swivel hinge wrists. Each one has an ab crunch and a waist swivel. They can arch back this far, Miles clearly more so, and they can hunch forward this far, which is about even. And of course, each one can equally twist. Below the waist, and both of them have ball-jointed hips. Miles can kick this high, and split this wide. Miguel can't kick quite so high, but still admirable, and split this wide, which is about the same as Miles. Both have thigh cut, both have pinless double-jointed knees, with Miles being a much deeper bend, and both have Marvel Legends ankles that can hinge and pivot. Despite an identical articulation scheme, one of these figures definitely has the upper hand. I honestly can't get over what an incredible range they gave to such a slender character. For posability, this round also goes to Miles. Moving on to playability, and I've got to say accessories is definitely an area of opportunity for these two figures. First things first though, and Miles comes with this alternate head, which I love. They've done a fantastic job of capturing his personality, and you definitely get a sense for how he's grown up in between movies. For anyone hoping to use this head in a different body though, and be warned that the hole is too small. As a reminder, he comes preloaded with fists, otherwise all he comes with are a pair of thwippies. They're well done, but if I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times, Spider-Man always needs to come with a minimum of 6. Fists, thwips, and wall crawlers. If you're determined to do 4, you could at least do 1 fist, 1 thwip in the 2 wall crawlers. Similarly, Miguel comes preloaded with fists, but he also comes with these. I think they're supposed to be crawlers, but really they just look like relaxed hands. What's funny is that Miguel is the one Spider exception where I'd be okay with only having 2 sets. Obviously you're going to want fists, but what I'd really want are the splayed out hook finger hands. Most importantly, what I really wanted is an unmasked Miguel head. The frustrating thing is that they're probably going to re-release this figure next year for Beyond the Spider-Verse with all the things they didn't include the first time. But playability is more than just lamenting over how little Hasbro gives us in terms of accessories. It's also about how well your figures play with others. Starting with my Miles collection, and here we have the Into the Spider-Verse 2-pack version. This is a new addition to my collection I've been looking for quite a while. Next up is the Into the Spider-Verse figure as he actually appeared in the movie. It's still one of my favorites. That said, for my absolute favorite Miles of my collection, and here we have the Gamerverse version, which was also released in stealth mode. I'm guessing at some point they'll give us a movie Miles like this too. Next up is the basic version from Across the Spider-Verse. Seeing it side by side the Legends, and it looks laughably cheap by comparison. But then we have this basic comic style Miles, which really isn't that bad. Moving over to Miguel, and here we have the first 6-inch scale Spider-Man 2099. This was made by Toy Biz as part of their Spider-Man Classic series. This one was made by Hasbro a few years later as part of their Spider-Man Origin series. Here we have the retro card comic version. How much do you want to bet we're going to get a new one next year based on the Renew Your Vows body? Lastly for Miguel, and here we have the basic version. In terms of sculpted detail, again, I do kind of like this one better. Standing between the two, both literally and figuratively, is Spider-Gwen. This is the Into the Spider-Verse 2-pack version. Here's the proper Into the Spider-Verse version. And here's the Across the Spider-Verse basic. I'm honestly still on the fence if I'm going to get the new one. Packed along with the Marvel Legends Gwen was Spider-Ham, who was also included with Spider-Man Noir. What a time to be Nicolas Cage. For one of my favorite Peter Parkers, however, and here we have Peter B from Into the Spider-Verse. And this version released as part of this wave. I'm really hoping we get a proper Across the Spider-Verse version with the bathrobe and Mayday. Here's the basic version of him, which seems to be the same size as Miles, but for just a couple of comic Spideys, and here's Renew Your Vows and Amazing Fantasy 15. My Spider sense is telling me we're going to get a Miles on this body sooner than later. Rounding out my Spider-Verse collection is Uncle Aaron, better known as the Prowler, but no matter what the universe, J. Jonah Jameson can't be too far behind. For a relative scale comparison, here's Miles and Miguel with Pizza Spidey and the Spectacular Spider-Man, and another Stealth Iron Man from across the Stealth Iron Man verse. In a wave without a Build-A-Figure, the lack of accessories is particularly felt. Miles fares better, but even he would have benefited from extra hands or maybe some Venom Strike effects. From a budget standpoint, it's important to remember that almost every figure in this wave is a new sculpt, so corners had to be cut somewhere, so that extra accessory puts Miles head and shoulders above the competition. For playability, this round also goes to Miles. Because both figures are $24.99, you might expect this round to be a draw, or you might expect Miles' extra accessory to put him over the edge like in the last category. Instead, I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to weigh them. Miles and his accessories come to 1.2 ounces. Miguel, however, comes to 2.8. That's more than twice the mass in the box. Being worth his weight in plastic, for price, this round goes to Miguel, but the battle goes to Miles, 4-2. That said, I have a feeling we're going to be getting a rematch next year. If you like this video, check out one of these. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back again real soon, but until then, play nice and have fun.